One of the reasons that AI has been able to move that quickly in the text space and in the image space is because there's so much training data out there on the internet, with all the blog posts, with all the news articles, images that people have supplied. It means that you can feed all that data to your algorithm and train it to recognize different objects and recognize patterns in text. With robotics, we don't have robots out there, even though we don't even have, robots that are teleoperated out there to do tasks with people in their everyday lives right now. So we don't have that training data.
How do you get 10,000 people to take a step to the left? What's behind the relentless mindset of a world champion? Why do teams of exceptional talent fail? How do you manage the pressure to perform? These are some of the curious questions we will attempt to answer as we bring you world leaders, curious minds, exceptional talent, successful CEOs, and incredible human beings who know how to inspire great leaders and are inspiring great leaders themselves. I am Craig Johns, high performance leadership expert, international speaker, and CEO of Speakers Institute Corporate and World Sport Coach. This is the Inspiring Great Leaders podcast, where the ordinary don't belong. Welcome to the Inspiring Great Leaders podcast. Today we bring you the youngest ever member of the Order of Australia, a global leader in robotics and technology that saves lives, author of recently released Smart Girl books, and the founder of RoboGirls. As a Forbes World's Top 50 Woman in Tech in 2018 and a Forbes 30 Under 30 awardee in 2016, she holds a Bachelor of Engineering Mechatronics and Bachelor of Computer Science from the University of Melbourne. She is the mastermind behind Orbot, which makes telepresence robot teleport for kids with cancer in hospital to attend school, people with a disability to attend work, and monitor and socialize with elderly people. She has co-founded AI Ploy, which follows the blind to recognize everyday objects, which has been downloaded over 500,000 times and translated into 23 languages. I'm excited to bring you a young Australian of the year, a talented leader who has led teams of 4,000 people across 13 countries, and a remarkable human who is making STEM fun for over 100,000 young girls, Marita Cheng. Marita, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Craig. I'm excited about being here.
Beautiful. So you're currently there in the USA, but I'm curious, where did you grow up and what was the big dream when you were running around the playgrounds?
Yeah, I grew up in Cairns in far north Queensland. I was there from when I was born until I was 18. I read a lot of books, and so my imagination ran wild. And I guess when I was like 12, I became really interested in robotics. Well, basically, I think I discovered Google, and I thought that was so cool that you could like type in anything and get all these results. And it made me feel connected with the world. And I thought, it's so clever. Why can't we put these kinds of brains in robots and have mechanical systems in our everyday lives that help us? And I was fascinated with robots from then on.
Wonderful. You growing up in Cairns, obviously a beautiful place where the outdoors and you got the Great Barrier Reef on your back doorstep. You come from quite humble beginnings though. Your mum raised you as a single parent, if I understand correctly. And, you had a relatively simple life, but here you were exploring what was possible in the world. How big of an influence has your mum been on, the success you've had?
Yeah, you're right. I came from very humble beginnings. My mom was a hotel room attendant, so she cleaned rooms all week and on the weekends as well. And yeah, so she'd like travel around to different hotels. So I just saw that she worked really hard, and she Yeah, she worked really hard to like put food on the table for my brother and I. She worked hard so that we could participate in other extracurricular activities. She really like invested in my brother and I learning different things and having like different experiences, as many as we could growing up in Cairns. And so I think that made me very curious about the world. She said, she'd say, "Oh, I can't teach you everything, but I still want you to learn, and so I'm going to pay someone else like to teach you how to draw, or someone else how to sing, or how to like play piano." Um, and yeah, so I'm really grateful for all those opportunities that she provided for me. Um, I think, yeah, the other thing that she used to say is like learn how to sing or learn how to draw, but you don't have to be the best in the world at those things. You don't have to be the best in the world at playing the piano. I just want you to be exposed to lots of different fields and lots of different things, and whatever you do in the future, I want you to bring all these experiences that you've had into whatever you do. And I think that was quite cool that she wanted to, yeah, just give me all this exposure to different like people and topics, and how people think in different industries. And when I talk to people about creativity now, they say, "Oh, if you want to be really creative, you should just spend a lot of time with your eyes open, looking around and looking at how things work and thinking about how things work, and learning about one industry and applying it to another, or learning about one idea and applying it to whatever you're working on, something else." And so, yeah, the more you keep your eyes open, the more you're learning from everything that the world is giving you, the more you can bring interesting ideas to your projects.
Yeah, I love that exposure to many different things. And, I suppose the genius of being successful in life is bringing the intersection of your different life experiences and what you've learned from those and how you can apply them across different areas. So I love that approach. It's such a beautiful guidance that your mum gave you, and a very wise lady. Now, were you more of a leader or follower during your kind of teenage years?
I think when I was a teenager, I wanted to be a leader, but like I really wanted it. But no one saw me as a leader. So I remember like in year 7, when you put yourself up for like student council or whatever, or like school captain, like I put myself up for that and I wasn't selected for school captain or like sports captain, or like even in the student representative council, like the SRC. And then, I went through high school, and again, I put myself up to be school captain and to be in the SRC, and like I wasn't selected for any of that. And I think like in high school and in primary school, like I tried to lead people, but I don't think I did a very good job. And I think I mostly like micromanaged people, or like did their job for them, or like things would just be like uncoordinated and no one would listen to me. So I wasn't a very successful leader in my teenage years. I tried.
Yeah, it's a good lesson for you. I think sometimes when you're someone who's very productive and looking at what you've achieved so far in your very short career, you're obviously someone who can action things really, really fast, and you're able to get things moving quickly. And so sometimes we can be, when other people may not, or when other people may be lagging behind in the speed and things like that, you go, well, look, I can do it. So you just get it done. Or you're like, hey, this is how you do it. And everyone's like, well, hang on, I haven't quite figured this out yet. It's a great lessons. How have you been able to take those learnings and apply them in the companies that you've set up and the other areas you've worked in, to ensure that everyone feels like they have ownership and they can play their part in the bigger picture?
Well, I think when I went to university, when I moved down to Melbourne, I wanted to be a leader again, and I was really curious about what that looked like and what that would entail. And I started Robo Gals, my nonprofit organization, and I thought I really want to use this as an opportunity to learn leadership skills. And I I learned a lot. And I think it's kind of a thing where you just, I think for me, I like put myself out there and I was like, hey, I want to make this happen. And other people said, okay, yeah, let's make this happen. And then I was, trying to coordinate people, trying to inspire people to join the project, trying to inspire people to do their role so that we could make it all happen. And then somewhere in those first few years, like eventually after a couple of years, someone was like, oh yeah, you're a leader, you're a great leader. But it doesn't happen overnight. I think it's gradual. You have to learn the skills. But I think the skills that I learned over that time were to listen and to really try and understand like where people were coming from and what they needed, what they needed to feel heard, what they needed to feel appreciated, what they needed in order to do their task. And then, working with them to provide them with what they needed so they could do their task. I think, and I think like, having compassion and like wanting the best for the people in your team. I think like, seeing that like our goal was so big, I couldn't achieve it by myself. I needed everyone to be a part of it. And then getting everyone excited about the goal that we were achieving so that everyone wanted to work together to achieve it.
I love that. I love that. The ability to kind of be curious around, okay, how can I change? What do I need to be able to lead? And from my experience, those who can figure out how to, like the true leaders can figure out their leadership through leading volunteers. That's when you really get to understand leadership. Those that you're paying, it's a different way of leading, but being able to harness the energy of people who are volunteering their time, could be doing off many other things, who could be easily kind of led towards earning money. That's where true leadership really kicks in. And so it's a great grounding for, being able to lead people in kind of a corporate world.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't think it was overnight. It wasn't like, I couldn't lead people in high school and then overnight, I could do it in Melbourne. It was very gradual. I guess it was like, the school of hard knocks or whatever, like getting punched in the face many, many times, or having a lot of volunteers like quit, or a lot of volunteers say, hey, I think this is, or having some volunteers say, this is disorganized. I can't be part of this. So just like being with that and listening to all their concerns and listening to what they needed and then making those changes so that they could see that I wanted to improve myself in the organization. Like I said, it's like you look back and then it's just, it reminds me of like lots of stories that I read where, like for example, it was like Derek Sivers, how people are like, you can't sing, and he just keeps singing anyway because he really likes it and he's into music. And then 10 years later, everyone's like, oh, you have such a beautiful voice, like oh, you're so talented, you're so gifted. And he's like, what? No, I wasn't good 10 years ago, and it was a lot of hard work and a lot of just putting myself out there and just doing it repeatedly. And now people say that I'm good, but I'm just doing it because I love it.
Yeah, great. There's hope for my singing then. So maybe at my daughter's 10-year or kind of end of primary school, I can sing for her. Robo Girls, we just mentioned in the introduction, you've talked about a little bit there. Explain to people what that is, because it was one of your first big passions that has, achieved some extraordinary results. I think it's over 120,000 girls have been through the program now. So do you want to explain a little bit about what it is?
Sure. Actually, I just want to quickly address the previous question again to add to it. How you said like, leading a group of volunteers, that's where like you really learn your stuff. I have to say, I think it's really rewarding to lead volunteers because they're not doing it for the money. They're doing it for their passion. They're doing it for their belief in the goal. They're doing it for like wanting to develop themselves. They're doing it to be part of a community. And I think it's just so rewarding to like bring out all those qualities in people. And having that energy that they bring to a project where they just want to do their best. They want the project to succeed. And so it's just really lovely to be around people who do put themselves up for that. And yeah.
Is that like, when we look at leaders of corporate and companies, etc., what, like, listening to that, what can they learn about drawing out of people that their purpose and their passion? Because we know a lot of people aren't, they're kind of disconnected from their work in a way. So how can we take those learnings from volunteer, not-for-profit type situations where you really have to focus on that passion and purpose? How can we pull that into a corporate setting?
I think it's like listening and talking to the person and finding out what they want to learn and what they want from the experience. So, sometimes people are like, well, I want to learn this skill, or I want to, develop my communication skills. I want to develop my technical skills. I want to be part of an organization that is global, or I want to do something big in Australia, or like whatever it is that they want to do. Creating something where they get to fulfill on that goal. I think in the corporate world, I don't know what people's motivations might be, I need to pay my mortgage, or I need to put food on the table. But I think, like, even all of that aside, I think, like, Dan Pink, he wrote a really great book called Drive, and it talks about autonomy, mastery, purpose. And I read that book when I was leading Rotary Girls, and we kind of structured how we taught our committees about our culture through that book, where we said, okay, well, we need to give everyone here autonomy, where they have the freedom to have a say in their work and the outcomes that they achieve. Mastery, we want people to be developing themselves, to be bettering themselves, to feel like they're getting better at something that they care about. And purpose, like having people feel like they're achieving something or contributing to something, or making something happen that's bigger than themselves. And so we really honed into, like, all of our teams. This is what we want for everyone. I think that's still something that I think about today with people, like autonomy, mastery, purpose. I think the other thing with volunteers is, like, it's like, people change, people, they achieve their goals and they want to achieve bigger goals. And so with volunteers, you have to be cognizant of that as well, and say, okay, well, you've got these skills, you've achieved that. Like, what's the next step for you? How else do you want to grow? And so, I think you really want people to continue growing if you want them to stay with you and stay with the organization. In Rotary Gals, like, we had people who were with the organization for, like, I don't know, like 11 years, just like in different roles and doing different things. I really like what Reid Hoffman from LinkedIn said, which is, he said, well, I do LinkedIn and it's not the sexiest company, but just like spot talent when they're really hungry, when they're like underappreciated, and say, hey, I can teach you stuff. I can help you on your journey. Join me, and recognize that they might only be with you for a few years, but in that time, you've got, like, this really, really great, brilliant mind, and you're developing them. And then at the end of them having achieved what they want with you, like, set them free to go off and do their own thing and have their own journey. So I think I'm very present to, like, everyone has their own journey and everyone has their own path, and I can be part of their journey for a little bit of it. And then when it's time for them to move on, it's time for them to move on. And I think that just, is the tale I tell myself. And it means that it's less emotional if people are like, oh, hey, I have to move on. And then by having it be less emotional, it means I can just focus on things that, the next thing, and I don't have to waste my energy on getting emotional about things.
It's I love the nurturing approach to that. It's a beautiful way to lead. So coming back to Robo Girls, do you want to share a little bit about what that is and what you've achieved along the way?
Sure. So when I was in high school, I heard from a lot of people that engineering had a lot of men. And I was like, yeah, well, I've been to engineering camp. I'm in my maths classes. There's a lot of guys there. It's not too bad. I guess in my maths class, there are probably like 8 women and like 12 men. In engineering camp, there were like 30 girls, 70 guys. It was fine. And like I read all the course syllabuses for university, and they'd profile like a bunch of women who'd be like, oh, there weren't many girls, but I made it through, and all the guys are really nice to me. And so I was like, I'll be fine. It's gonna be fine. And I'm young, and these people are a little older than me. So like with my generation, there's gonna be more women. All those women at engineering camp, they're gonna go and do engineering at university. And then I show up to university, and I remember it was my first week of maths class, and I walked in like 10 minutes early and sat like, I don't know, like 10 rows from the front. And then I waited, and there were like boys walking in, a group of boys, single boys, just a whole bunch of boys. And then like a group of guys and one girl walked in and sat in front of me. And then the lecture started, and I was like, you can't start. Like, not everyone's here yet. And then I looked around the room, and there were like 200 people in the room. And like way at the back, there were like 10 other girls there. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess this is what they mean when they say there aren't many girls in engineering. And my course was mechatronics engineering, computer science. And it actually took me until the end of my first semester at university before I found all 4 other girls doing my course out of 50 people doing it. Because they kind of mix all the engineerings together. And like that maths class had like chemical engineers and like mechanical, electrical, like all these different types. So it was really hard to find people doing the exact same course as you. And anyway, so I just, I was first year uni, Melbourne, all the way from Cairns. Like, it was a very big culture shock. In my second year at university, I did a leadership course, and they were like, do a project in the community. And I wasn't sure what project to do. And my friend said, well, you love robots, you should do a robot project. And so we started like brainstorming different projects. And then I met the head of the electrical engineering department because my friend and I, we started a business called Nudge. It reminds people to take prescription medication when they go to the pharmacy. And we entered that into our university's entrepreneurship competition, and we came first in the undergraduate division. And so the head of the electrical engineering department gave us our check, I guess, or our certificate. And while meeting him, I said, hey, I'm building a robot with my friends. Could you fund our robot? And he said, well, what I'm interested in is I'm going to a school to teach year 6 girls robotics to get them interested in engineering. And he said, yeah, I want to. And so I thought, oh, that's a really cool idea. Like, we could actually make a difference in the number of girls in our class. And I thought, if we're going to one school, why don't we go to all the schools? And so the next couple of weeks, I wrote a plan for that to happen. And that was it was like right before exams. And so I did my exams, and I got all these people to like sign their names to say that they were going to support this new organization. So I got about 24 names. And then after my exams were over, I went and saw the professor, and I said, hey, this is my plan for like for teaching the girls robotics. And he said, well, how can I help? And I said, well, could we borrow the university's robots, and could we use the room, like the engineering common room, in order to build the robots and test them? And so the following Tuesday, me and 3 other girls, we started designing robotics workshops, calling schools, and recruiting even more people to join us. That was during our university holidays. And and then like, I guess 3 weeks later, we had like 65 people who had signed up from our university to help us. And I think like a month after that, we taught we started teaching our first group of girls from Melbourne. And then in the first 3 months, we taught 124 girls from 5 schools around Melbourne. And after that, I went overseas to London to study mechanical engineering at Imperial College London. And while I was there, I started up the London chapter of RoboGals. And while I was over in London, I noticed that a lot of student organizations weren't just in one place, but they tended to be national. So because London was so small, and so like the entrepreneurship club from London could meet with the Oxford entrepreneurs or Cambridge entrepreneurs or Bath entrepreneurs. And I thought, oh, it's really cool to like meet with students from other universities who have the same interests as you. And so I decided I'd do that for RoboGals in Australia. And while I was in the UK, I contacted 4 other universities around Australia to see if they'd be interested in having their own RoboGals chapter. After like months of back and forth emails, all 4 of those universities said yes. And so 2 months after I returned from the UK, we held a 3-day boot camp conference at the University of Melbourne and expanded to another 4 universities around Australia. And since then we've just been doing that around the world and building community, building a culture, training university students and teaching robotics, and then having them go out to the schools and teach the robotics. And impacted over 120,000 girls.
I love your gumption and just your ability to go, hey, look, let's just make this happen. Was there any points where you kind of felt that maybe this is not going to happen, or this is too hard? How am I going to keep this going? Am I the right person to do this? Are we actually teaching the right thing? Were there any of those thoughts that come into mind, or were you just so focused on, hey, this is great, we can do this, and have a real positive mindset?
Yeah, like every day I thought those things. Like in the beginning, it's like, is this going to amount to anything? What are we doing? Everything's falling apart. Like everything's falling apart all the time. And then when I went to London, I was like, oh, like, is this like, I need to, I don't know, it's just a lot of work all the time. I mean, you look back, I think when you look back at something in aggregate, you're like, oh, so many results, so many achievements, amazing. But then like when you're there in the weeds, it's just like, well, there's this problem, there's that problem. Who's going to fix this? Who's going to fix that? That person's leaving and this is missing. Like, it's just like when you're really in the weeds of it, it's all just details. And there's always things that go wrong. So it is nice to like take a deep dive out and look at it and be like, oh, all those things amounted to something, and we achieved something by focusing on all those details. All the time, and like at every point where we expanded or every point that we did something different, we failed. Like we went to London, and it was really, really hard to start that second chapter. No one showed up to the first 2 meetings. And then, coming back to Australia, doing the boot camp conference, like that was really hard. I didn't know what we were doing. And, we kind of just, we just did it, we just got through it. And then having like going from 1 chapter to 2 chapters to 6 chapters, there were a lot of teething problems of like, well, you do one thing once, but then how do you replicate that? And it's not just replicating it once, but it's replicating it 6 times. And so everyone wants to know, but then there's just one of me. So how am I gonna, share that knowledge on? And so it was a lot of work that like going from 1 chapter to 6 and creating processes and creating like best practices. And then going from there to like, we were like, hey, let's like create more programs to make this even better. And so I started the RoboGals rural and regional program, where we go out to rural and regional areas to teach girls and boys robotics. And again, it was like, how do we do this? How does this make sense? Like, what fits in with like what we currently have, what fits in with the culture. And then, yeah, I founded the Robot Science Challenge to like impact even more kids around Australia, where they do a science experiment and submit it online to win some prizes. And again, it was like, how do we do this? How do we make this scalable? How do we make this work? It was just like teething problems at every step. And the teething problems manifest in like, people being unhappy with like, well, why isn't this more organized? Why don't you know what I should do? Like, why isn't this better structured? Like, what? And then like lack of understanding about why we're doing things the way we're doing. And so it's a lot of communication, a lot of like getting people in alignment, a lot of making people feel heard. And then a lot of like putting in the work to like put those processes in place so that people do want to continue, so people feel proud of being part of this, so people feel like they're part of something that's organized. And so I think like, yeah, after we like managed to get many people in the organization, I would think, we have like 300 people in this organization that are working really hard. I need to like pull my weight. I need to make sure we're achieving our goals, make sure we have really inspiring goals so that we continue to inspire people to be part of this organization. And then it was like, okay, we have 1,000 people now. Like, I need to like keep going because there's all these people that are relying on me to like set that vision, to set that tone, to set that culture, to put things in place so we have this really sturdy foundation, or this really sturdy organization that they can like depend on and grow with. So yeah, I think my team has always been my biggest inspiration.
All right. So a couple of things that I'd like to go into. One is here around, when we think about scalability, we always talk about systems, processes, structures, but you're also talking about this, this balance of messiness, creativity, spontaneity, that kind of drive to innovate as well. Sometimes I think companies and not-for-profit organizations can be so caught up in those structures, systems, and processes. How was the purpose behind it? Do you think that was the kind of centerpiece that kept everything together when you were trying to balance this kind of orderly structure with this kind of loose, sort of spontaneous, creative space?
I think definitely that's what drew people to the organization, that we had this purpose. They were like, oh, I want to make friends. I want to do something. I want to be part of something. And we had this purpose. And so people were like, that's a cool purpose. And then I think we were like pretty organized actually compared to like other opportunities that they had. And so like, oh, cool. Yeah, I'll join this thing that's like organized, and then I can achieve some impact while I'm at university while making friends. I mean, honestly, I think that I brought the creativity and the big thinking and the let's charge forward. And then my COO, he brought the structure and the processes and the orderliness. Honestly, I was like, to the moon. And then like everyone else in my life is like, no, you can't do that. They were like, no, you can't grow 1,000x every year. You can't grow 10,000x every year. And so, yeah, the way that I like to see it is that like, and there was a lot of people in my life. And so the way I like to see it is I was like this, this line going up, and then my COO was the one following and coloring all the lines behind me to like give us a really strong foundation. But yeah, I think I've become better at processes and putting structures in place since then. But yeah, I think like I needed to be inspired in order to lead the organization and to really drive us forward. And so I would think, what inspires me, what makes sense, and then I'd go and do that.
You're very tenacious, which I love. But coming back to London, you talked about the first 2 meetings, no one showed up. Now, in my experience in watching people, when no one shows up the first time, they're out. They're going, this is failed, this is flawed, doesn't work. What's happening mentally for you? What's the mindset you're going through when not only no one turns up the first time, but the second time to go, you know what, it's actually worth pursuing and pushing on?
Yeah. Well, I cried the first time after about half an hour when I was like, oh, no one's showing up. And then the second time I cried after about 15 minutes. And I cried a little less because I was like, I'm used to this now. But for me, it was like, well, I'd never been to London before. It was my first time going there. And I was like, I have another 6 months here in London, and I have this organization in Australia. And I thought, I've got 6 more months to try and get this off the ground here in London. And that was it. It was like, I'm just going to keep trying. And otherwise, I'm going to go back home and I'm not going to have this organization in London. So I'm just going to keep trying to make this happen. And that's what I did.
So moving on from Robo Girls, and obviously it's still continuing to do its thing and continuing to grow, which is amazing. But you've also, I really love this Allbot and what it's been able to do to really help people that may be isolated for whatever reason or may not have direct access to something, to be able to give them that access, to give them that exposure, to be feeling part of something. Where did the idea come up from, and what has it allowed people to be able to do around the world?
Yeah, sure. So I was just really obsessed with robots, and I thought, what is the simplest robot that I can build that will make a difference to people? And it was telepresence robots that allowed people to be in multiple places simultaneously. So we could, be at our homes as we all were during the pandemic, and then have robots in like factories or warehouses or in the office and remotely log into our robots to drive around and really get a sense of the place. So rather than you just looking at, the forest behind me, you could like come in and explore the forest behind me. So it's really immersive and really fun because it doesn't make you feel like you're left out of like being somewhere. You actually feel like, oh, I'm there. And if I want to see what's around the corner, I just go around the corner and I see what's there. And so it's a really fun experience. And yeah, it's allowed people to remotely go to school. It's allowed people to remotely go to work while they're sick. Well, like kids in hospital or kids with long-term illness to go to school. And so it's been really great that we've been able to impact people in all these different ways.
Okay, so from those who haven't seen this before, trying to picture in our mind, is it like an R2-D2 walking around? Is it like something out of the Jetsons? What does this robot look like?
Yeah.
And how, and obviously, is it connected by a phone? Is it connected by a laptop? How does it all work?
Sure. So the robot has a screen that allows for the remote user's face to be displayed so that people can humanize the robot and see who's controlling it. But then it also allows the user to have an expression, to like have their facial expression seen by the people that they're interacting with. And so, yeah, this person's remote face is on a screen. There's a long pole, which is a linear actuator. It allows the robot's face to move up and down in order to talk to people better or in order to be stored away more easily. The remote user has a forward-facing camera to see it in front and a downward-facing camera to see the ground. And our robot is black and white. It's got an elegant black head. A linear actuator is white, and then it's got a sleek white case at the bottom. So when it moves, it kind of just looks like it's gliding through the office. And so, yeah, it's got wheels, and operating the robot is like playing Mario Brothers, except if you drive the robot off a cliff, then you have to buy a new robot.
So does it have some autonomous aspects to it, like that it'll sense things so to prevent it going off the cliff, so to speak?
Yeah, it does. It has ultrasonic sensors at the bottom, so it can see if there's any obstacles in the way, and if it approaches like a wall or an obstacle, it'll stop, like it'll slow right down so that it can't actually hit the wall. And so it's got some self-protection mechanisms in place as well.
Okay, so is this something we can purchase off Amazon for Christmas, or is this something here a little bit more specialized that costs a little bit more money and will requires certain things to be able to access it?
Yeah, so our robot, it's not available on Amazon. Yeah, so people usually contact us directly in order to purchase it, and we work with them to set them up with their robots. But something that you can purchase on Amazon is my book, which is Smart Girl Books, Marita Cheng, as you mentioned, Craig. And yeah, it tells my story of setting up RoboGals and the robots that I built, and it's got pictures of the robots. And yeah, it's like RoboGals, my life, Albot, the robots I built, my AI company, all of it packaged into one book. The age range for this is like 8 to 12 is the seems to be the best age group. So if you have like a daughter or a young girl in your life, then I highly recommend this book, maybe for Christmas or New Year's, or just as like a thinking of you, you're a smart girl and I think you have a bright future kind of present.
That was very clever. I love that segue there of connecting that into Christmas and Amazon. So I was just about to dive into Smart Girl Books. Obviously, you're talking about for that, that kind of young teenager that it's inspiring them to be able to think about STEM and to, I suppose, open up their eyes to a world that you have found so fascinating. What has been, I suppose, for you, what did you learn writing the book about yourself? What did you learn about yourself?
It was really fun to write this book, actually. I think I really like picture books. But my favorite picture books are like have very vivid images and very vivid characters and colors. And so I think like the first few months was just, what kind of book do I want to write? How much text do I want? How much detail do I want to get into? What do I want it to look like? What do I want to feel like? And yeah, I'm really, really proud of this book. I really love like all the vivid characters, all the vivid images. Like it just really pops. And then all the text as well. I spent a lot of time writing that, rewriting that, getting it edited, so that it would be easy to understand for like girls and boys of any age. And like saying a lot of details, but also like being positive and not being too technical. What I learned about myself, I learned that yeah, it was a lot of work writing this book, and I like to do a lot of leadership courses, and I set my personal goals. So like if the leadership course is like 3 months or 6 months or 4 months, then I think, okay, well, what are my goals in the next 3 months or 4 or 6 months or whatever? And then I try and achieve my goals during my leadership course. And so I actually started writing my book like at the tail end of my leadership course. And I yeah, I kind of like commandeer my leadership courses to go the way of my goals. And yeah, so I got this book done during that leadership course. Because I feel like yeah, if you want to like achieve a project, it's really hard to just hold yourself accountable, and it's much easier if you have like 30 people where you're telling them about your project every week, and every now and then someone says something encouraging, or they say, oh, hey, I want to read your book, or oh, let me edit your book, or let me proofread your book. You're like, oh, okay, I have to like get it to the next stage so that you can proofread it or you can read it. I don't know what I learned. I think I just wanted to like AI. So all my books are actually generated using like AI art, basically. And so that was a real catalyst of me creating this book. Actually, it was, oh, there's all this new technology that's just come out, and I want to work on a project using this technology. I don't have time to start a new company. This whole field is moving so quickly. I want to create something using this technology that will last, and it won't just be like moribund. And I thought maybe I'll write a book, because then with a book, like it will last. And now, like, that, like, yeah, Stability AI, they launched their models in August last year. Their open source Stable Diffusion image generator models. And now, like just over a year later, that whole field has moved so quickly. It's moved all over the place. There's like so much more capabilities. And throughout that, my book still exists. So I'm really, really happy to, make something that's lasted. And I think that's how I like to think about my companies as well. It's like I want to create something that lasts, that impacts a lot of people, that can scale, that lasts for like 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and beyond, I guess. So yeah.
I love that. I love the legacy approach to life and the things that you do. We're talking about technology and the speed that it's moving. It's fascinating. It's mind-blowing what people are doing. It's encouraging. Obviously, there's the dark side to it as well along the way. You're very visionary, and there's a lot of visionary people out there that are playing in the tech space and that are trying to progress it really quickly. But what do you think is required to ensure that there's responsibility around what's been done, and to make sure that we are protecting future generations and even current generations, to be honest, with regards the dark side, I suppose, to technology and where it's going?
Yeah, I think this current space, it's moving really quickly. And I think there's just like so much happening. Like obviously there's like ChatGPT with OpenAI, but then there's like other open source companies that are coming out with like models that are like nearly at that level and giving it to everyone. So yeah, I think there's just so many changes. There are a lot of people thinking about like AI safety and ethics. I think, yeah, in the past with like other technologies, we've had more time to think about all those things because it hasn't moved as quickly as AI seems to. I think that, yeah, I think there's a lot of discussions, a lot of thoughts that, a lot of things that we still need to like figure out and understand about the space. But I'm hopeful that like with humanity, we decide on things that are good for us and humankind and fairness and what's good for us and what's good for future generations.
Yeah, as a human race, I think we've been very good at that and been able to adapt. This is obviously challenging us to adapt a bit quicker at the moment. I kind of find it fascinating because AI has been around for 60 plus years, and we still don't really have, I suppose, a structure in a way, maybe because they're so creative, a structure in a way in regards to kind of a safety in this space. And, we do have a big responsibility to make sure that it's used in an effective manner. And there's always going to be people that are going to push the boundaries. When you think about people that used to rob banks, now they do it online and they, in a different way than actually physically going into a bank to hold them up with, with their weapon or something like that. Now it's done online in a different way, and we just have to think differently and be careful, cautious in different ways as a human race, which is good. What role are you playing in this? Like, are you playing a role in sort of safe technology or AI safety, or are you kind of leaving that to other people and you're just focused on creating what is remarkable things that help humanity in regards to technology?
Well, I have a lot of friends who work in that space, like AI safety, and I have a lot of friends who work in the space of like creating the technology and thinking about it and like really like searching for new frontiers in creating this new technology. And I have my own projects that I'm working on. I have my robotics company. I have other projects. And I think from spending so much time in San Francisco, Silicon Valley, the Bay Area, it's made me realize that, yeah, there's remarkable people doing remarkable things all over the world. And And if you want to like achieve really amazing impact, you have to stick to your lane and do what you know to do and move whatever you're doing forward. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm working on some other projects that I think are really impactful and world changing in other ways. Yeah.
I think it's a really good mindset. I think sometimes everyone wants to solve every problem possible and try and plan each other. But I really like that, stay in your lane or play in your lane a little bit is so important. It makes it a lot easier to make decisions, make choices when you are kind of focused in an area rather than trying to solve everything the world has to offer, which is...
Yeah, it's like, I think, it's like staying in your lane, but also like controlling what you can control or, taking responsibility for the things that you can take responsibility for. I mean, I think like in like SF, San Francisco, the Bay Area, like you definitely notice trends. So sometimes it's like, oh, hey, AI, and then it's like, hey, crypto, and like NFTs, and then like AI, and so so you've got all these things that like that are really shiny and people chasing the shiny things. But yeah, I'm the projects that I'm working on, I'm really passionate about and I really believe in, and I think they're going to be really important for decades and decades to come. So yeah, that's what I'm focused on right now. But I mean, I have I have worked on projects before in the AI space, and it is something that I could do again in the future. I mean, I wrote my book, but I mean, obviously it's a little different. But yeah, I would be open to doing something else in the space. But yeah, right now I'm very focused on just the projects I'm working on and launching them and getting them out to the world and scaling them and having them have a huge impact on the world.
Yeah, we've talking about trends. Obviously, this year has been the year of AI. Last year was the year of the metaverse. The year before was probably around crypto and maybe in those areas. What do you, with your finger on the pulse there in this the Bay Area, what do you see as potentially going to be the big trend in 2024?
Well, I think it will still be AI. I don't know. I hang out with a lot of people who work in that space, so I am like surrounded by it all the time. I mean, even during the crypto, during like the metaverse craze or the crypto craze, like my friend group was all still pretty focused on AI. So, I mean, there, yeah. Well, I mean, I think the thing about like AI in the past years is just been such a like feeding frenzy. There's like been so many people who've like flocked to it and who are trying to like launch projects in it, and there's just a lot of stuff going on. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how it all starts to land, and I mean, it's still crazy, like all the announcements that are made every day, and the different projects people are working on. So yeah, I think like AI and its potential and the excitement around it will continue.
When we think about AI and robotics as well, what do you think is the most important need in this world that those two, both robotics and AI, can solve that is probably most important for humanity right now? Sorry, that was a big question, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, there's so many problems, right? There's so many problems in the world. And I think that as a technologist, sometimes you can say, oh, hey, I have these tools, I have robotics and I have AI. What's my problem that I can solve with these? And and I think and I mean, there's so many things that robots could help us with, like in our daily lives. I mean, there's so many like systems out there that could be like automated and processed better using robotics. But yeah, it is a huge like time and monetary investment to set all those up. And so it's like, what is the scale of the problem? Like how what time scale do we need this problem solved, and how many people is going to serve if we solve this problem. um yeah, I think there's a lot of things to consider with robotics. I think I mean, obviously, like, having a humanoid robot that can help you in your everyday life and look after the elderly and look after people with disabilities um is is a great problem to solve, and that's something that I um have worked on solving with my Jivaru robot, which is a 8 degree of freedom robotic arm on a movable platform. Um, so we have Omni wheels at the base, 3 Omni wheels that allow for the robot to turn on its spot, to move directly forward, move directly backwards, and move sideways as well, like a crab. And then moving up the robot, we have 2 custom built linear actuators that help pivot the arm's motion. So either it can have the entire arm move up and down parallel to the ground, or it could also pivot the entire arm at various angles. And then along the final limb of the arm, we have a bunch of motors which enable the arm to move around in all different directions. So the arm can like manipulate doors, pour drinks, do all sorts of different tasks. And so the use case for that robot arm is someone with a disability right now. If they want something in the middle of the night, they could press a button and call someone, and then a carrier remotely would need to get in their car, drive all the way to that person with disability, help them with what they need, maybe like get them a drink. So it might take like half an hour, 40 minutes for that person to like arrive at that person with disability's house, maybe like 10 minutes to get them the drink, and then they drive home again, 30, 40 minutes. And so that whole interaction takes like an hour and a half. But it means the person with a disability needs to wait 40 minutes for their drink. It means the carer needs to spend 80 minutes driving and only like 10 minutes like doing something that helps the person with a disability. Whereas with my robot arm, what could happen is the person with disability could press a button. The carer could remotely log into the robot, drive it around, get the glass of water, and then after they've done that, they can just log out of that robot and then help the next person. And so it means that the carer can do more high-value tasks with their time and not spend as much time traveling, and the person with disability gets what they need faster. So you could, with robotics, like build more and more agile, more and more complex, more and more expensive robots to achieve that task. I mean, right now, like with my robots, they're like remotely controlled. So it's the brains of the human that are powering these robots to do various tasks. But with AI, these robots could figure it out themselves, like how to get the water, how to pour the water. But I mean, that's still a ways away. Getting AI to do all those tasks. One of the reasons that AI has been able to move that quickly in the text space and in the image space is because there's so much training data out there on the internet, with all the blog posts, with all the news articles, images that people have supplied. It means that you can feed all that data to your algorithm and train it to recognize different objects and recognize patterns in text. With robotics, we don't have robots out there, even though we don't even have, robots that are teleoperated out there to do tasks with people in their everyday lives right now. So we don't have that training data. And then even once you have that training data, like, is it standardized? Well, I mean, if you're using different robot arms and they have different motors in different places and they're designed differently, they have different form factors, then you need to, like, that training data isn't the same for every robot. And so it just means that there's a lot less training data for your algorithms to control robots to be trained on. And so we're not there yet.
Yeah. I look forward to when you can create the robot in those settings that intuitively knows when to give the person a hug, when it knows when to maybe just stroke their hair or to give them that hormone oxytocin boost that they need in that moment. And I'm sure it won't be too far away before it can be creative enough to start to have that emotional connection with people as well. We all know smart people have great answers, but the most successful people ask great questions. When was the last time you did something for the first time?
Ooh. Um. Um. I think. Okay. Well, the first thing that kind of pops to mind is I went on holiday like a month ago, and I haven't been on a holiday. It was 3 weeks, and I went to Japan, and I haven't been on a holiday um since like 2013. And I mean, I've traveled and I've been on trips, but I'm always working. And so this holiday I didn't have any meetings. Um Whereas like in the past I'd go on a holiday and I'd have meetings still. Um I mean, I still messaged people and emailed people, but I didn't have any meetings. Um so yeah, probably that.
That's big.
Yeah,
Big.
it was great. I had a really good time. It was really nice to like just yeah, be in another country and experience that, and kind of just being committed to being a tourist every day was really fun.
Beautiful. You should take more time to do that in the future.
Yeah.
What is the one question that you would love to solve?
Oh my gosh. What is the one question I love to solve? Well, honestly, it's probably what I've just been talking about the past 10 minutes, which is like creating an autonomous robot that has like intelligent capabilities to be able to figure things out for themselves and help humans.
Oh, it's
I would love
beautiful.
to solve that.
That's a great question to solve.
Uh,
For you, what is an inspiring great leader, and who is a great example of this for you?
oh my gosh. Well, I've been thinking a lot recently about like never meet your heroes, because you meet them and they're like a normal human being and then you're disappointed. But when I was growing up, I read a lot about like Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, who co-founded Apple. Um, and I think it definitely like really inspired me growing up, because it's a huge, hardware company. They're a technology company, but they're also a hardware company. And um, I met Steve Wozniak in 2012, and I had breakfast with him. It was just me, him, and my COO, just the three of us having breakfast in Melbourne. And he was just so lovely. He was just such a darling and so delightful. And he was what I expected him to be like from everything that I read about him. And I think I've just been reflecting on that, because people say never meet your heroes, and I did, and he was amazing. And I think that helped me not, it helped me, stay excited about people and stay curious and stay happy. It didn't jade me in any way. Um, yeah, I don't know if I answered your question. What was your question again?
That's good.
Oh yeah.
No,
Oh yeah.
that's
Okay.
all we need. That's all we need. This has been a wonderful conversation, and I'm sure people out there would love to learn more about what you do. So what is the best way for people to connect with you?
You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I post there. I lurk on Twitter, so you can follow me there. And I intend to post more on Facebook, so you can also follow me there, or Instagram. But yeah, LinkedIn is quite fun. So yeah, all of those. Yeah. Anyway, if you follow me on any of them, you'll see like updates about my book and various interviews and like newspaper articles that I've done about this book. Yeah, book is a lot of fun. Highly recommend that you purchase it and read it. It's available on Amazon. And yeah, I think in particular it's really good for like young girls and young boys. Young girls, so they can see what they can do when they're older, and they can see that they can just do whatever they want to do. And that's especially good if they want to do something that helps a lot of people. And young boys should read it so that they can also see that girls are capable of doing anything as well.
It might be a great gift for my 11-month baby girl for Christmas. I'm sure we can read it to her and she can absorb everything through the pictures as well. Marita, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. I have really admired the humility in you, the vision in you, the curiosity that you bring to really solving world's real problems. You know, a lot of people out there are solving problems, but many don't really solve real human problems that we really need in this world. And you have this great tenacity and drive in you to continue to figure out ways all the time. And you're very focused, which I think is great. A great lesson for everyone listening to this podcast and watching is to stay in your lane and to really go deep in that lane rather than trying to scatter yourself over too many things. And I think when we see really successful people in the world, they make a choice. They make a decision to focus on something and to make it truly remarkable by going as deep as they possibly can and to put their heart and soul into it. So thank you for everything that you do. For those out there, once again, her book is available, Smart Girl Books. You can see it if you're watching this as well. It's a fantastic book, and I'm picturing, is that you in the middle there on the front cover?
That's me.
That was your university?
Yeah, that's me at university and all the guys.
All the guys. It's a beautiful book. So thank you very much. I love what you do and looking forward to continuing to connect with you in the future and continuing the conversation. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so much fun to talk to you, Craig. Really enjoyed it.
It's time for you to join the Inspiring Great Leaders movement by visiting craigjohns.com.au. Share this podcast on LinkedIn and be sure to hashtag Inspiring Great Leaders. We would love it if you could leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Drop us a line with your feedback and questions and connect with us on the Craig Johns LinkedIn, Facebook and Instagram pages. Be sure to check out the next Inspiring Great Leaders podcast, where the ordinary don't belong.